Chapter 2172. On the other side, in the Sky Sun sect, the atmosphere was tense. Ever since they found out that the young man in front of them was the ghost Dr. Fengjiu, their expressions changed again and again. No one knew what they were thinking. In the middle, Bai Qingqing, who was paralyzed on the ground, sat there in a daze after Fengjiu left a mark on her body. The Medicine Peak Lord's eyes were filled with anger after his shock. "You did it on purpose, didn't you? You didn't say that you were the ghost Dr. Fengjiu. If you said that you were the ghost Dr. Fengjiu, I. He was so angry that his face turned red, feeling like he had been deceived. He thought that he had taken advantage of the other party, but who knew that it was this young man who had taken advantage of him? He had clearly come prepared. He had clearly made up his mind to cheat him of his 7-star spiritual herb. Truly shameless to the extreme. This ghost Dr. Fengjiu was so shameless. Peak Lord Yi, your words are so unreasonable. Fengjiu glanced at him and said, from the beginning to the end, you didn't ask who I was? Besides, if I said that I was Fengjiu, you wouldn't dare to compete with me? Speaking up to this point, her lips curled into a faint smile. Our competition was open and aboveboard, there were no tricks. If I lost today, I definitely wouldn't have any objections. You're clearly. He couldn't speak, only feeling a fire burning in his chest. Could it be that after knowing that she was the ghost Dr. Fengjiu, he didn't dare to compete with her? He knew very well that even if he knew beforehand, he wouldn't admit defeat to her, much less think that he would lose to her. But now, this situation, once he thought about how he had lost that 500-year-old 7-star spiritual herb, his heart ached. Especially when he felt that he had been cheated by this ghost Dr. Fengjiu, he felt even more indignant. When he lost earlier, it was one thing if he didn't know that she was the ghost Dr. Fengjiu, but now that he knew that she was the ghost Dr. Fengjiu, how could he not understand that she had long dug a hole for him to jump into? I see that it's getting late, Peak Lord Yi, let's go dig for herbs. Fengjiu smiled as she looked at the furious Peak Lord of Medicine. Hearing this, Peak Lord Yao's body stiffened. Dig herbs. That's right, from the moment he had lost to this Fengjiu, that 500-year-old 7-star spiritual herb was no longer his. Thinking of this, he felt a burst of pain in his heart and couldn't help but look at Feng Nine angrily. That 7-star spiritual grass is one of the main ingredients of the 7th-level detoxification pill. You can't refine a 7th-level detoxification pill, so what's the use of taking my 7-star spiritual grass? He. Fengjiu chuckled, her eyes narrowed as she beamed, that's already my 7-star spiritual herb, Peak Lord Yi. How you want to deal with it is none of your business. Hearing this, his face stiffened, and his body trembled slightly. His 7-star spiritual grass, he only had a 7-star spiritual grass that was 500 years old. He had never thought that he would lose to this kid, no, this little girl. But now, he had lost, and he had lost in such an unsightly manner. The sect master watched from the side, coughed lightly, and said, all right, old man Yi, bring little friend Feng to dig up your 500-year-old 7-star spiritual herb. This was the bet we agreed on before the competition, so you must accept your loss. Hurry up. Chapter 2173. Fengjiu narrowed her eyes and smiled. She glanced at Bai Qingqing, who was sitting on the ground, and walked up to her. Did you hear what I said just now? You have 3 months. Remember to look for me when you're done. If I don't see you at the Heavenly Pill Dispensary in 3 months, I'll go to your Bai family. Bai Qingqing raised her head and looked at her. She gritted her teeth and said, I know. I'll definitely be there in 3 months. You should call me master. Fengjiu narrowed her eyes, and her expression was a little lazy. Hearing this, Bai Qingqing lowered her eyes and lowered her head. Yes, master. Good girl. Fengjiu smiled with satisfaction. She reached out and patted her head. She glanced at Song Ming and was about to follow Peak Master Yi to dig for spiritual herbs. However, she saw Peak Master Yi standing in front of her alchemy furnace and staring blankly. Fengjiu walked up and glanced at her alchemy furnace. She had only taken out the pills but did not take the alchemy furnace. She wanted to collect it when she came over. Who knew that Peak Master Yi would be interested in it? She smiled and waved her sleeve to put away the alchemy furnace. She looked at Peak Master Yi and said, "It's getting late. Peak Master Yi, let's go." Your alchemy furnace." Peak Master Yi looked at her in shock. "Your alchemy furnace? My alchemy furnace is more durable." She smiled and said, "No, your alchemy furnace, this alchemy furnace is. Yes, it's used by me for alchemy. I'm not selling this furnace." She smiled and narrowed her eyes. "I saw it just now. It looked like the Shenong furnace." He muttered and his eyes fell on Fengjiu. It's just a small broken furnace I picked up on the road. It's better than ordinary alchemy furnaces." Fengjiu laughed and looked at Peak Master Yi, who was in a daze. She said, "Peak Master Yi, let's get down to business. Don't you think so?" The corners of Song Ming's mouth twitched as he glanced at Fengjiu. That's right. Digging up someone else's carefully maintained 500-year-old spiritual herb was the proper thing to do. She was probably the only one who could do such a proper thing. Peak Lord Yi took a deep look at Fengjiu before clasping his hands behind his back. "Let's go." This ghost Dr. Fengjiu was not a normal person. Not only was he an abnormal alchemy genius, he also seemed to have a lot of treasures on him. Just like the Aurora teleportation scroll and the small cauldron. Don't think that his old eyes couldn't see clearly. That cauldron was clearly the ancient divine cauldron, the Shenong cauldron. How could such a heavenly treasure fall into her hands? As he walked, he thought about it. He really couldn't understand how that that girl's luck was so heaven-defying. Song Ming and Fengjiu walked a few steps behind Peak Lord Yi. Looking at the figure in front of them, Song Ming whispered to Fengjiu beside him, "This is also my first time coming to Peak Lord Ye's cave. I heard that there's a spiritual field next to his cave. There are all kinds of spiritual herbs that Peak Lord Yi personally cultivated there. Some of them are extremely rare outside and have been around for a certain age." Hearing this, Fengjiu's eyes flashed and the corners of his mouth hooked up, revealing a wicked smile. "Oh? Then I really have to take a look. I love medicine fields the most, especially medicine fields that have rare and precious herbs planted in them." Chapter 2174. The two of them followed Peak Lord Yi. After entering, they saw that there was a barrier in addition to formations. Fengjiu, who was walking slowly, was slightly surprised. Just how much did Peak Lord Yi treasure his spirit herbs? This place was heavily guarded, as if it was guarding against thieves. "We're here." Peak Lord Yi stopped in front of a medicinal field. He looked at Fengjiu and pointed at the field, saying, "Go in and dig it yourself. But I have to tell you first, don't break this old man's other spirit herbs. Otherwise, this old man will make you pay." "Okay." Fengjiu smiled and told Song Ming to wait for her outside the medicinal field. Then, she walked in. Peak Lord Yi didn't tell her which spirit herb was the 7-star spirit herb. He told her to find it herself in this medicinal field. However, this wasn't difficult for her at all. Peak Lord Yi stood to the side with his hands behind his back. Out of the corner of his eye, he looked at the figure walking in the medicinal field. He thought to himself, this Fengjiu should be able to find the 7-star spirit herb in this medicinal field, right? That's right. How could someone who can refine a level 6 medicinal pill not recognize the 7-star spirit herb? She probably recognized all the spirit herbs in this medicinal field. Just as he was thinking, a thought suddenly flashed through his mind. This person is like a bandit. She wouldn't take a fancy to my other spirit herbs, right? Thinking of this, his expression couldn't help but become nervous. He turned around and stared nervously at the figure walking in the medicinal field. Seeing her looking at each spirit herb like that, his heart was in his throat. This Fengjiu was as cunning as a fox. If she really took a fancy to something, he was afraid that she would play some tricks and dig a hole for him. After thinking about it, he hurriedly said, "Don't walk around randomly. The 7-star spirit herb is on your left. The one in the innermost part is 500 years old. Quickly dig it up and leave. Peak Lord Yi, I didn't expect your medicinal field to have so many varieties. They're all rare spirit herbs outside, and they're all quite old. You found them and transplanted them here, right?" Fengjiu looked at the nervous Peak Lord Yi and asked with a smile. "Why do you care where this old man got these spirit herbs from? Anyway, where they came from has nothing to do with you. Quickly dig up that 7-star spirit herb and leave. This old man has a headache whenever he sees you," he said with a face of disgust. Fengjiu heard this and smiled. "Fengjiu, I'll leave right. I won't stay." She would come back in the future. She would come back in the future. She arrived in front of the 500-year-old 7-star spirit grass and carefully dug out its roots and transplanted them into her space. Then she walked out and said to Peak Lord Yi, "Peak Lord Yi, I'll be leaving first. I'll come back later if I have the chance. Next, don't come back in the future. Don't ever come back again." Seeing his guarded face, Fengjiu couldn't help but chuckle. There's still a long way to go. Who knows what will happen in the future? You also know that I have the Aurora transfer scroll. It's convenient for me to go anywhere. As soon as she finished speaking, Peak Lord Ye's face turned ashen. He stepped forward and pushed the two people out. "Go, go, go. Don't come back in the future. Don't ever come back again. This old man is scared of you, okay? Today, if this news spreads to the other 3 sects, this old man won't be able to go out and see anyone," he angrily said. After pushing the 2 people out, he clasped his hands behind his back and returned to his cave. Chapter 2175. It's still early. Why don't you come to my place for a drink before you leave? Song Ming said. He felt that the sky was not completely dark yet, and it was not difficult for her to go. On the contrary, once she left, it would be a long time before they could meet again. Fengjiu looked at the sky and said, "I'd better go back first. I'm worried that something will happen over there." She looked at him and said with a smile, "When you go down the mountain, call them and have a few drinks at my place. I won't stay for long today." "All right." They hadn't seen each other for a long time, and now that she was leaving again, he was reluctant to part with her. However, when he remembered that he had seen her again, and the other 3 hadn't even seen their faces, he felt relieved and said with a smile, "Then you can go back. After a while, I'll definitely call the 3 of them over." Fengjiu took out the Aurora teleportation scroll and opened it in her palm. With a thought, she disappeared in the next moment. Looking at Fengjiu who disappeared in front of him, Song Ming couldn't help but praise, "What a good treasure. No wonder Bai Qingcheng even sacrificed herself." Thinking about how Fengjiu had caused so many things in the 2 days since she came to the Sky Sun sect, he couldn't help but shake his head and smile, and walk down the mountain. On the other side, in 100 Rivers City, in front of the Heavenly Pill building, corpses were strewn all over the ground. The splattered scarlet blood and the strong pungent smell of blood made people feel nauseous, especially when some of the corpses even revealed their internal organs and flowed all over the ground. After a fierce battle, there weren't many people left from the 5 Venoms sect. Even the middle-aged man from the Celestial Sage sect was injured by Guan Shilin. One of his arms had been cut off at the shoulder, and fresh blood kept flowing down. It was a ghastly sight. Seeing that there weren't many of his people left, the middle-aged man from the Celestial Sage sect took advantage of the gap between gasping for breath and quickly retreated. At the same time, he shouted unwillingly, "Retreat!" His figure was retreating, but his eyes were still staring fiercely at Guan Xilin. "I will definitely avenge this broken arm. Guan Xilin, just you wait." The words left behind by that person could be heard from afar. Guan Xilin didn't chase after him. Instead, he turned around and looked at Leng Hua and the others. "How are you guys? Is everything alright?" Leng Hua and Du Fan were about to speak when they heard Yang Xiao's exclamation. Oh no, he keeps vomiting blood. I can't stop the bleeding." Hearing this, the people outside quickly rushed in. They saw Gu Mo, one of the 8 captains of the Phoenix Guards, lying on the ground, vomiting blood. His face was pale and there was a broken sword in his chest. His aura was so weak that it seemed like he would die at any moment. Everyone was shocked. "Gu Mo! Gu Mo!" Everyone shouted as they surrounded him. Luo Yu took out a medicinal pill for him to consume, but was stopped by Fan Lin. "You can't eat it. The sword that pierced his heart is extremely poisonous. Now, no medicine can save him. It will only make him die faster." Fan Lin grabbed Luo Yu's hand that was about to stuff the medicinal pill into Gu Mo's mouth and said, "Carry him in first. If Master can make it back in time, there might be a way to save him." Upon hearing this, Guan Xilin finally understood what was going on. No wonder Xiaojiu didn't appear even after they fought outside for so long. It turned out that she wasn't in the Heavenly Pill House. Chapter 2176. At this time, Fengjiu had just entered Hundred River City. She walked all the way to the Heavenly Pill Dispensary on the inner street of the West City. However, as soon as she entered the West City, she smelled a faint smell of blood in the air. Why was there the smell of blood? And why was it in the air? She was puzzled and worried, so she quickened her pace and walked forward. Along the way, she heard the people on the street talking. Many people have died. Why does the Heavenly Pill Dispensary always provoke these people? Many people must have died. The fight was so fierce, and both sides are so powerful. Look at how long the Heavenly Pill Dispensary has been open. They often do these things. In my opinion, today's incident won't be the last time. There will definitely be more in the future. The days are long. Everyone, just wait and see. That's why people are afraid of being famous and pigs are afraid of being fat. If you're in the limelight, it's easy to get into trouble. If you don't become a thorn in the side of others, you'll become enemies with others. This is the Heavenly Pill Dispensary. Some people just can't bear to see others doing well. If you don't provoke them, they will provoke you. Hearing this, her heart sank. Many people had died? Were they from the Heavenly Pill Dispensary? She should have known that the people who dared to go against the black market must be powerful. She did not expect them to cause such a big commotion. Moreover, it happened when she was not around. On the street where the lights were just lit, she was not in the mood to watch. She quickly walked forward until she came to the front door of the Heavenly Pill Dispensary. She saw the closed door and the bloodstains on the ground that had not been cleaned up in time. "Master!" 2 Phoenix Guards appeared outside the door. When they saw her return, they were happy and excited. "Master, you're finally back. Gu Mo is injured, seriously injured." Hearing this, she pursed her lips slightly and walked forward quickly. She pushed the door open and went straight to the backyard. "Master! Master! Master!" When the injured Phoenix Guards saw her return, they all showed up and bowed. In the backyard, Leng Hua and the others were anxious. Suddenly, they heard voices and could not help but be happy. They quickly walked out to take a look. "Master! You're finally back. How is Gumo? Fengjiu looked at Leng Hua and the others and asked. It's highly toxic. The knife stabbed into his chest. Fan Lin didn't dare to pull out the knife. He said that he was afraid that it would damage his heart meridian and cause him to bleed to death. Leng Hua quickly explained the situation. How are the others? She asked again and quickly walked in. She was surprised to see her brother here as well. Brother, when did you come? Other than the 2 Phoenix guards who died, the others were also injured, but they weren't as badly injured as Gumo, Leng Hua said. Seeing that it was her, Guan Shili nodded. I just arrived not long ago. As soon as I arrived, I saw someone attacking Leng Hua and the others. Master, the 5 Venoms sect sent a celestial sage, as well as some fairy realm and nascent soul pinnacle stage experts. Fortunately, Big Brother Guan came to help. Hearing this, Fengjiu nodded. I'll take a look at Gumo first. We'll talk about the rest later. She came to the bedside and looked at Gumo, whose face was pale but was still awake. She asked, is he still conscious? Master. Gumo's voice was weak. His breathing was so weak that it seemed like it was about to break. All right, don't talk for now. She put her hand on his wrist and checked his condition. Chapter 2177. Prepare water for me. Everyone else, leave first. Fan Lin, stay behind. She instructed as she took out a silver needle from her space. Yes. Everyone replied. Other than Fan Lin, everyone else left first. Only Leng Hua came in with water. Under Fengjiu's instructions, Fan Lin used a pair of scissors to cut open the clothes around the wound. When he saw that the wound on his chest had already swollen and turned black, he couldn't help but look at his master. Fengjiu looked at the wound and frowned. She reached out to feel the surrounding acupuncture points and said to Gumo, I will help you pull out the broken sword. Bear with it. It will be very painful. Gumo nodded slightly. His lips moved slightly as he replied weakly, okay. Fengjiu wrapped the broken sword with a piece of cloth and pulled it out forcefully. With a whoosh, blood spurted out and dyed Fengjiu's hand red. She didn't stop. Instead, she quickly pierced the acupuncture points around the wound with silver needles to stop the bleeding. Fan Lin was originally shocked and he saw the blood gushing out of the wound. However, when he saw that the blood stopped flowing after his master pierced the needles, he secretly heaved a sigh of relief. Cut a piece of ginseng for him to hold. Then, clean up the blood around the wound. I want to remove the flesh around it. Fengjiu instructed as she took out a small knife and prepared to do it. Fan Lin did as she said. After cleaning up, he retreated to the side. After Fengjiu cleaned her hands, she disinfected the small knife in her hand with fire. Only then did she carefully remove the rotten flesh on the swollen wound bit by bit. As soon as the broken sword was pulled out, Gumo, who was hanging by a thread, let out a muffled groan. If it wasn't for the 1,000-year-old ginseng in his mouth, he would have fainted from the lack of breath. After she cleaned up the rotten flesh around the wound, she secretly activated the green lotus aura in her body. A faint green light slowly shone from her palm and slowly healed the wound around his heart. Fan Lin's heart skipped a beat when he saw this scene. His eyes were filled with disbelief as he looked at the wound that was healing at a speed that was visible to the naked eye. The deep wound that was originally open was healing bit by bit in front of him. When the last bit of the wound healed, not a single scar was left behind. His heart was beating wildly as he looked at his master in shock. This kind of ability was simply heaven-defying. This was something that he had never dared to imagine or believe would happen. Healing the wound in an instant? This kind of ability could bring someone back to life in many cases. His expression was solemn. His master had displayed such an ability in front of him without any hesitation because she had absolute trust in him. If the outside world knew about his master's ability, he was afraid that such a heaven-defying ability would lead to a fatal disaster for her. I'll suppress the poison in his body for the time being. I'll only be able to detoxify the poison in his body after I refine a 7th-grade antidote. Fengjiu said to Fan Lin, he'll be fine for the next few days. However, you still have to take care of him. Don't let anything happen to him. Master, is the poison in Gu Mo's body the same as the poison in the black market master's body? He guessed that the two people's situations were somewhat similar. Chapter 2178. An expert of the Five Venoms sect whose strength is at the level of immortal sage. That sword was originally aimed at Gu Mo, but due to a freak combination of factors, it hit Gu Mo. Gu Mo forcefully broke the sword. However, the injury was close to his heart meridian. Moreover, I can't cure the poison on the sword. As Fan Lin spoke, he thought of the middle-aged man and said, fortunately, Shi Lin came at that time. Otherwise, we wouldn't be his match. Even Tun Yun could only delay him. Moreover, it would be impossible to kill him. However, that person's arm was cut off by Shi Lin. Speaking of this, his expression became serious. I think the people of the Five Venoms sect won't let this matter rest, whether it's the owner of the black market or our heavenly pill building. Moreover, if most of their people are at the celestial sage level, it'll be difficult for us to deal with them. Hearing this, Fengjiu pondered for a moment. I'll discuss this matter with them. As she spoke, she glanced at Gu Mo on the bed and said, you watch over here. I'll go to the front. Fan Lin nodded. After watching her leave, he opened the window to disperse the smell of blood in the room. Outside, Guan Shilin and the others who were waiting went up to her when they saw her coming out. Luo Yu and the others couldn't help but ask, Master, how is Gu Mo? Is he still alive? It was difficult to hide the worry in his voice. He's still alive, but he's not out of danger yet. As Fengjiu spoke, she glanced at them and saw that they were also covered with wounds of various sizes. She said, the people of the Five Venoms sect are experts in using poison. Even if you've taken the antidote pill, you can't be careless. As she spoke, she shook her head and sighed softly. Fortunately, the poison you've been poisoned with is not the same as Gu Mo's. Otherwise, it'd be troublesome. Thinking about it, even if the poison was overbearing, it wouldn't be easy to concoct such a strong poison. Otherwise, none of them would have been able to escape. We're all fine. Our injuries are fine, but Gu Mo. Wait for me to concoct the 7th-level antidote pill. His poison is the same as that of the owner of the black market. Currently, only 7th-grade antidote pills can cure their poison, Fengjiu said, thinking about how high the success rate of this batch of pills was. Hearing this, Guan Shilin asked, then when are you going to start concocting pills? 7th-level medicinal pill? Are you confident? Make some preparations tonight. We'll refine the pills tomorrow. As she spoke, she looked at them and said, I am worried that if I concoct pills, I will attract the attention of the people from the Five Venoms sect. Therefore, I am preparing to go to another place tomorrow to concoct 7th-tier medicinal pills. After I have finished concocting the medicinal pills, I will come back. During this period of time, all of you must be vigilant at all times. After all, the people from the Five Venoms sect may come again in the near future. You want to go somewhere else to refine it? Guan Shilin was a little confused. Seeing this, Fengjiu smiled and said, it's a long story. Some time ago, I obtained a treasure called the Aurora Teleportation Scroll. It can allow me to go anywhere in an instant. Oh? There's such a treasure? Guan Shilin's eyes lit up and he nodded. That's good. Then find a safe place to concoct the pills. As for here, you don't have to worry. I will help you guard it. Chapter 2179. As she spoke, Fengjiu looked at everyone and asked, "Has Mo Chen come recently?" Hearing this, everyone was startled for a moment. They all thought of the same thing and looked at each other. In the end, Leng Hua opened his mouth and said, "Master, there's something I've always forgotten to say." "Hm?" She raised her eyebrows slightly. "What is it?" Actually, before this, there was someone who came to seek medical treatment. However, the situation was like this. Leng Hua briefly explained the matter of the person brought by Murong Yixian. In the end, he said, after that, due to the matter with the black market owner and the fact that they didn't come again, this matter. He had forgotten about it. Hearing this, Fengjiu nodded, there's no need to pay attention to this matter. Just take care of the matters at hand. Yes. Everyone responded. Xiao Jiu.Guan Shilin called out to her. He wanted to take out the gift he brought for her, but then he remembered that she still had matters to attend to and probably wasn't in the mood. Thus, when she looked over, he said, "Don't put too much pressure on yourself. It's fine as long as you did your best." He knew that level 7 medicinal pills were not easy to refine. However, at this time, she was going to refine level 7 medicinal pills to save the black market master and Guo. He was a bit worried. The more anxious she was, the easier it was for her to make a mistake. I know. She smiled slightly and said to them, "Send Guo back to the Feng Manor. I'll go to the Ling Manor first to see that black uncle." When an old man from the black market who had just walked in heard this, the corner of his mouth twitched. His wise and powerful master had actually become a black uncle in the eyes of this little girl. "Ghost doctor." The old man bowed to Fengjiu. Seeing her look over, he said, "I heard that something happened here, so I came to take a look." "It's already over." Fengjiu looked at the old man and said, "The people from the 5 Poisons sect are indeed powerful. They even injured my people to this extent. Look." She looked towards Leng Hua and the others, her expression very obvious. Seeing this, an apologetic look appeared on the old man's face. "We've implicated you." He cupped his hands and bowed to everyone. Leng Hua and the others didn't say anything. "How has your master been these 2 days? Did you do as I asked?" Fengjiu asked and did not say anything else. Ever since she took over the role of the black market master, she knew that this day would come. The enemies of the black market would also become her enemies and seek her out. Yes, his condition hasn't worsened, but he hasn't woken up either, so we're all a little worried. "I'll go back with you to take a look," she said, and after saying a few words to Leng Hua and the others, she left through the back door with the old man. Not long after Fengjiu went to the Ling mansion, Mo Chen also came to the Heavenly Dan building. Even though the sky was already dark, the smell of blood outside still hadn't completely dissipated. In particular, the traces left behind by the fierce battle were very clear. He stepped into the Heavenly Dan building and saw Leng Hua inside. He said apologetically, "I've been cultivating in seclusion for a while, and only came out today. It was also at this time that I found out about the Heavenly Dan building." He felt apologetic. He thought that there wasn't much to do recently, and there were so many people guarding the Heavenly Dan building, so he went to cultivate. He didn't expect so many things to happen during this period of time, so he felt apologetic. He also promised Fengjiu that he would help her look after the Heavenly Dan building, but now he had broken his promise. Chapter 2180. Leng Hua said warmly. He looked at Mo Chen and said, "However, Master asked about Sir Immortal just now. Where is she?" Mo Chen asked. "Master has already returned to the residence. However, she has some matters to attend to, so I'm afraid she won't have time to see Sir Immortal." "Sir Immortal, you can come back in a few days." Hearing this, Mo Chen asked, "Is she busy with the matter of the owner of the black market?" "Yes." Leng Hua was slightly surprised that he knew about this matter, but he still nodded. He did not say anything more. He only said, "If that's the case, then I'll come back in a few days." With that, he turned and left. On the other side, after Fengjiu went to the Ling residence to see the owner of the black market, she prepared all the medicinal ingredients she needed. Only then did she open the Aurora transmission scroll and look carefully from above to find a suitable place to refine pills. She looked from above but did not find a suitable place. Thus, she put away the Aurora transmission scroll. After entering her room, she directly entered the space. When it came to refining pills, where could there be a better place than her space? There was no one to disturb her inside, and it was a world of its own. Moreover, the spiritual energy was dense. However, 7th-level pills were not so easy to refine. Although she had studied it for some time, the main ingredients were limited. She could not afford to fail. At the same time, in one of the bases of the Five Venom sect, the middle-aged man whose arm had been cut off by Guan Shilin came to the main hall with a pale face. He respectfully knelt on one knee and lowered his head. "Sect Master, I've failed in my duty." Even he did not expect that he would lose an arm on a trip to the Heavenly Pill building. With his strength as a celestial sage, his arm was cut off just like that. How hateful. Looking at the kneeling middle-aged man, the person on the main seat who was wearing a mask narrowed his eyes. "Was your arm cut off by Fengjiu, the ghost doctor?" Hearing this, the middle-aged man lowered his head even more. "Sect Master, it was not Fengjiu, the ghost doctor, but a man named Guan Shilin. When this subordinate went to the Heavenly Pill building today, that Fengjiu did not even show his face." "Oh?" The main seat's voice was slightly drawn out, a little surprised, but in the blink of an eye, he was relieved. "It is said that this ghost Dr. Fengjiu is surrounded by capable people. However, your strength is not weak either. For your arm to be chopped off, you must have underestimated your opponent." The middle-aged man lowered his head, gritted his teeth and said, "Sovereign, this Guan Shilin is actually a black tortoise god." Hearing this, the heart of the main seat moved. "Martial god level? He's actually a mystic?" "Yes, I've followed you for many years, but I never thought that I would be defeated by a mystic. I can't take this lying down. Please seek justice for me, Sect Master." He kowtowed heavily because he knew that if he wanted to deal with Guan Shilin, Fengjiu, and the others, he could only ask the Sect Master to personally take action. Otherwise, it would be useless no matter who went. His hand would definitely not be chopped off like this. Whether it was the ghost Dr. Fengjiu, or Guan Shilin, or the owner of the black market. As long as there was a chance, he would not let any of them go. Chapter 2181. Seeing this, the middle-aged man was overjoyed. "Yes. Thank you, Sect Master. This subordinate wishes Sect Master success." The 10,000 poison hands gathered all the poisons in the world. It was a technique that only the Sect Master of the 5 poison sect practiced. If this technique was mastered, no antidote would have any effect. Even if that person was the ghost Dr. Fengjiu, he wouldn't be able to find a way to break the 10,000 poison hands. He would endure it for the time being. Once the Sect Master mastered the poison technique, it would be their time of death. On the other side, 100 Rivers City's Nalan family. "I heard that the Heavenly Pill building provoked a lot of enemies again. This time, they seem to have provoked the 5 poison sect." The Nalan family head looked at his eldest son sitting in the hall and asked, but who knew that he would only focus on drinking tea and wouldn't even respond. Nalan Emo-chan held the cup lid and gently scraped the tea as if he didn't hear anything. No one knew what he was thinking. Nalan Xian next to him also had an absent-minded expression. The 2 brothers didn't even listen to what he was saying. Seeing this, the Nalan family head's face sank. He slammed his hand on the table and asked loudly with his eyes wide open, "What's going on with you 2 brothers? Didn't you hear me ask you something?" Why are you both so absent-minded? Hearing this, Nalan Machan and Nalan Zian both raised their heads to look. The former smiled and glanced at Nalan Zian, but Nalan Zian glanced at them and sighed softly, "Father, you don't have to worry about this matter. Even if the heavenly pill building offended someone, you can't help them, right? It's useless to ask so much and talk so much." His voice paused and his face was full of worry. He glanced at his elder brother. "If I was as strong as Big Brother, I wouldn't be sitting here worrying." Nalan family's head was stunned when he heard this. "What are you talking about? What are you worrying about? I haven't even talked about you yet. Recently, you've been running to the Feng Manor every few days. Tell me honestly, what have you been doing?" Hearing this, Mo Chen narrowed his eyes and glanced at Nalan Zian. "Running to the Feng Manor every few days? Are you really interested in Ling Shuang? It seems like you didn't take my words to heart." "Brother, you can't say that. Before Nalan Zian finished speaking, he was interrupted. Bang! "What's going on? What do you mean by having feelings for Ling Shuang? You little bastard, did you take a fancy to that black-clothed woman by Fengjiu's side, Ling Shuang? Are you tired of living? How dare you have designs on her people? I think you've been living too comfortably recently, so you want to suffer a little, right?" Nalan family's patriarch heavily slammed his palm on the table. He stood up angrily and pointed at his second son, cursing loudly. "Big Brother." Nalan Zian looked at Mo Chen, hoping that he would help say something. "Don't look at me. There's nothing I can do." After taking a sip of tea, he put down the teacup and stood up. He raised his hand and patted his robe, coldly saying, "I've only been in seclusion for a while, and there's been a lot of trouble. Especially when I didn't go into seclusion, nothing happened. Once I went into seclusion, I broke my promise to Fengjiu." Chapter 2182. Looking at his elder brother leaving, Nalan Zian was slightly startled. He took a deep breath and exhaled. He slowly lowered his eyes and hid the complicated look in his eyes. After a long time, he stood up and said to his father, "Father, I'll go back first. I'm going to the back of the mountain to cultivate in seclusion. Don't look for me for a while." Watching his two sons leave one after another, the Nalan family head couldn't help but shake his head and sigh, "Forget it, I don't care anymore. You can deal with your own matters. Even if I want to, I can't." He flicked his sleeves and walked out with his hands behind his back. In Fengjiu's space, she sat quietly beside the spiritual spring with her eyes closed. She was deducing the refining method and steps of the level 7 detoxification pill in her mind. After a long time, she opened her eyes, which were shining. She got up and prepared all the spiritual herbs needed for the level 7 detoxification pill. She took out the Shenong cauldron and summoned her natal heavenly flame. Everything was ready. Her originally worried and restless heart calmed down. There was only one main herb, and there was only one chance of success. Although she had deduced the steps and method in her mind, if she still failed in the end, it could only mean that she had tried her best. It was really not easy to find the spiritual herbs for the level 7 detoxification pill. Not to mention the other pills, just this 500-year-old 7-star spiritual herb was not easy to find. In addition, even though the poison in the black market master and Gu Mo's body had been forced to a corner of their bodies, if they were not cured as soon as possible, the poison would break out again. If they really waited until the poison broke out, even a god would not be able to save them. The flame in the pill furnace lit up. She controlled the flame and put the processed spiritual herbs in one by one. Her movements were so familiar that it was as if she had practiced it millions of times. As time passed, all of the spirit herbs were thrown into the furnace. Due to the consumption of spirit force and her concentration, a layer of sweat appeared on her forehead and her face was a bit pale. In particular, when she flipped her palm and continuously sent spirit force into the furnace to control her life force flame, she felt the pressure on her mind become even greater. It was as if a string was tightly stretched and she couldn't relax for even a moment. As time passed, the air was filled with a rich medicinal fragrance. Smelling this pleasant medicinal fragrance, she began to condense the pill. She knew that this was the final key, so she didn't dare to be careless. At this moment, in the sky in her space, clouds surged. Black clouds condensed from nowhere and tightly covered Fengjiu and the pill furnace. She raised her head and quickly flipped her hand to form the pill. Just at this moment, the first bolt of pill lightning came down from above and landed on the pill furnace below. Bang! It was like a sudden clap of thunder that shook the ground. Immediately after, the second bolt of lightning struck down, followed by the third bolt. In an instant, 3 bolts of lightning struck down consecutively. After the 3 bolts of lightning, the layer of clouds above gradually dispersed. Chapter 2183. In a corner of the space, little white tiger, who was playing by itself, saw that she had already laid down. Its small body leaped up and bounced towards her, pouncing on her as it cried out. Soft fur entered her hands as its small body lay on top of her. It stuck out its tongue and licked her face, causing her to laugh softly. All right, I'll bring you out later so that you can play outside. She stroked the little white tiger's soft fur as she spoke. She lay quietly on the ground for a while until she felt the spiritual power in her body gradually recover. Then, she sat up, put the little white tiger down, and walked to the pill furnace. Looking inside, she saw 3 level 7 antidote pills lying there quietly. Streaks of spiritual energy formed pill patterns on the pills, and a rich medicinal fragrance filled the air. She smiled and took out 3 exquisite small bottles. With a pat on the pill furnace, the 3 pills flew up and were placed into the bottles. After exiting the space, she walked out of her room and let little white tiger out to play. Then, she called out, "Leng Shuang." Her voice, which contained a trace of spiritual energy, spread from the residence. Leng Shuang, who was in the residence, heard Fengjiu's voice and quickly came to her courtyard. When she saw her master standing in the courtyard, she stepped forward and bowed. "Master. Prepare water for me, I want to take a bath. Also, get someone to find little white tiger some food." "Yes," Leng Shuang responded, glancing at little white tiger, who was jumping around in the courtyard, before turning to leave. An hour later, Fengjiu walked out of her room wearing a red dress. Her silky black hair fell naturally behind her back and was only lightly tied up with a red ribbon. The dazzling red dress was simple, but it gave her a different and enchanting aura. When they heard that she had returned, Guan Shilin, Leng Hua, and the others also came to the residence. When they saw her in a dazzling red dress, their eyes lit up. Although they had already seen their mistress's beauty when she wore women's clothes, they were still stunned every time they saw her. Among all the people they had seen, she was the only one who could wear red clothes with such a temperament. The recklessness of the red dress and her confidence combined to form a unique temperament. Her beautiful face, set off by the dazzling red dress, appeared even more magnificent and unparalleled. When she was dressed in green, she restrained her aura and sharpness, as if she was a noble young master who had not experienced much of the world. There was not the slightest trace of fierceness. However, when she was dressed in red, the aura of an expert was fully displayed. Her sharp edge was extremely dazzling. Coupled with her confident and willful expression, as well as the devilish smile on her lips, this was the aura and grace that the legendary ghost Dr. Fengjiu should have. "Greetings, Master." Leng Hua and the others stepped forward, bowed, and called out respectfully. "Xiao Jiu." Guan Shilin smiled as he looked at his younger sister in front of him. Fengjiu nodded at everyone and said, "I have refined the level 7 antidote. There is one here. Take it and give it to Guimo." I will go and take a look at that black uncle. As she spoke, she took out a medicine bottle from her space and handed it to Guan Shilin. Brother, I will have to trouble you to make this trip. No problem, Guan Shilin said, taking the medicine bottle and looking at Leng Hua and the others. Master, then we will go and see Gu Mo first. Chapter 2184. I will go over later to check on his condition. For now, you all should take care of him. She said to everyone. Yes. They responded, bowed, and then left. After they left, Fengjiu brought Leng Shuang to the Ling residence. Once they entered, Fire Phoenix, who had transformed into a small bird, flew down from the branches and landed on her shoulder. Fire Phoenix, the little white tiger is in the residence. Go play with it. Fengjiu slightly tilted her head and smiled as she spoke to Fire Phoenix on her shoulder. Okay. Fire Phoenix replied. Knowing that she was busy, it did not disturb her and flew off her shoulder towards the Feng residence. Ghost Doctor. A middle-aged man came in and respectfully bowed to her. Fengjiu slightly nodded. Under the middle-aged man's lead, they arrived at the inner courtyard that was heavily protected. Entering the room, they saw the old man guarding the bed. Ghost Doctor is here? Has the 7th rank detoxification pill been refined? When the old man saw Fengjiu, joy appeared in his eyes and he quickly walked over. Not bad. The 7th rank detoxification pill has been refined. She nodded her head and looked at the person lying on the bed. Slowly walking over, she sat down on the chair next to the bed. Great. I knew it, I knew that the Ghost Doctor would have a way to save my master. The old man's eyes were red and he was extremely excited. Fengjiu first checked his pulse and then checked him. Finally, she took out a pill bottle and poured out the pill inside. Pour a cup of water. She said to the old man to the side. Yes, yes. The old man quickly went to the table and poured a cup of water. He looked at the pill in Fengjiu's hand. The 7 veins on the pill made him extremely excited. This was a 7th rank detoxification pill. This was something that could save his master's life. Fengjiu personally fed the detoxification pill and water to the owner of the black market. Bring me a basin. As she spoke, she lifted him up with one hand and used her spiritual energy to carefully move it around the black market owner's body. Pooh! The owner of the black market spat out a mouthful of poisonous blood. As the poison had accumulated in his body for a long time, it had formed a blood clot. When he spat out the mouthful of poisonous blood, there was a blood clot in it. The old man's heart skipped a beat when he saw that. He stood guard at the side, unable to help much. He could only watch as the Ghost Doctor pierced the acupuncture points on his master's body with silver needles, and took out another pill to feed him. Although he couldn't help much, seeing that his master's breathing was stable, he heaved a sigh of relief. Just as he was about to take out the poisoned blood from the basin, he heard her voice. Wait. Fengjiu called out to him. After pulling out the silver needles in his hand, he looked at the old man. Leave that poisonous blood clot for me. This is still needed? The old man was stunned. This poison is not ordinary. Only a 7th rank detoxification pill can detoxify it. However, the main ingredient for a 7th rank detoxification pill is not easy to find, so I plan to carefully distinguish the poison in this blood. From another angle, I will find a way to detoxify it. As she spoke, she kept the silver needles in her space and said, the poison in your master's body has been cleared. I have also fed him a pill, so he should wake up tomorrow. However, his body has been exhausted, so to fully recover, it will take at least a month. Chapter 2185. Fengjiu looked at him. What's the matter? He hesitated for a moment, then asked, does the Ghost Doctor understand the 5 poison sect? I only know that the 5 poison sects people are experts in using poison. The 5 poison sects master has 12 poison envoys, and most of their strength is at the celestial sage level. As for the rest, I only know a bit, but I can't say I understand them very well. Hearing her say this, the old man sighed in his heart. Without a complete understanding, she was willing to protect their master and make an enemy out of the 5 poison sect. It had to be said that their master's eye for people was very good. If it was anyone else, they probably would have just washed their hands of this matter. Ghost Doctor, the 5 poison sects master, is known as the 5 poison sects master. His strength is above the celestial sage level, and what we fear the most is not the 12 poison envoys under him. Instead, the poison sect has a poison technique. That poison technique uses one's body as poison, and uses one's body to cultivate poison. When the poison technique is mastered, all the poison in the body will be transferred to the left hand. Thus, it is known as the 10,000 poisons hands. If this 10,000 poisons hands is mastered, combined with the use of spiritual energy, its power will be great. Very few people are able to defeat it, the old man said in a deep voice, then looked at her with a serious expression, saying, this 10,000 poisons hands is a poison technique that only the master of the 5 poison sect can cultivate. Last time, when the 5 poison sect's master fought with my master said that he had already mastered the poison technique to 70%, so I'm worried. Hearing this, Fengjiu nodded, I understand. I will be careful. She stood up and said, take care of your master here. When he wakes up tomorrow, have someone inform me. All right. The old man agreed, then handed the poisoned blood clots to her, then sent her off. Fengjiu returned to the Feng Manor to check on Gu Mo's situation. After confirming that the poison in Gu Mo's body had been cured after he vomited blood, she handed over some matters to Leng Hua and the others. Then, she returned to her room and closed the door. No one knew what she was busy with inside. Only when the sky darkened did she walk out of her room with an exhausted expression. Xiaojiu, you're done. Guan Shilin, who was sitting in the courtyard, saw her come out and indicated for her to sit down. He poured her a cup of tea. Rest. Look at how busy you've been these days. I'm fine. Fengjiu smiled. After sitting down, he picked up his teacup and drank some tea. He said, I've studied the composition of the poison and found the antidote. When the time comes, even if someone is poisoned again, they might not necessarily need a 7th grade antidote to detoxify it. I don't understand what you're talking about. I'm waiting for you here because I have something for you. He smiled and took out some treasures he had obtained outside. Fengjiu couldn't help but stare in a daze when she saw the treasures placed on the table. The items on the table were piled up into a small mountain. There were precious treasures, glowing beads the size of a baby's fist, and so on. Everything was piled up one by one. She only felt that the small mountain in front of her was sparkling. This light attracted the little white tiger and fire phoenix, who were playing in the courtyard, and Lao Bai, who was sleeping on the tree, to gather around. Brother, where did you get so many things? Don't tell me you went out to rob someone. She picked up a precious bead on the table and looked at it in shock. She couldn't help but click her tongue. Good stuff. Why are there so many treasures? Why didn't I see these when I went out? Chapter 2186. All for me? She was slightly surprised. So many treasures? Yes. They're all for you. And, wait a moment. He smiled and took out the fiery red stone from his spatial ring. Because the red stone was too big and there were treasures on the table, such a precious and priceless piece of top-grade fiery stone was casually placed on the ground by him. Look at this stone. I brought it back from the volcano in the volcano forest. I saw that the color was as beautiful as a flame, so I wanted to bring it back for you. He smiled and said, I wanted to find a sculptor to carve this stone and give it to you, but I don't know what you like, so I'll give it to you like this. Find a time to send it over and carve it. Make it look good and you can put it in the heavenly pill house to admire. Fengjiu was stunned when he took out the top-grade fiery stone. Such a dazzling color, such a large piece of fiery stone, this was the best of the best. What did her brother just say? Carve it? Thinking of this, she asked, Brother, do you know what this is? I know. It's some kind of top-grade fiery stone, and it's worth some money, Guan Shilin said. Hearing this, the corner of her mouth twitched. It's worth some money? Such a large piece, and it's the color of a flame. This is a priceless treasure. Fortunately, you didn't carve it, or my heart would ache. She couldn't even find a piece of this thing, but her brother actually brought back such a large piece, and it was even a top-grade one. Guan Shilin smiled and said, I knew you would like this thing. At that time, many people wanted to snatch it from me, but in the end, they couldn't beat me. Hearing this, Fengjiu chuckled. I know. At that time, I was also in the volcano forest. You were with that group of mercenaries, right? We should have met on the way. It's just that you didn't see me and I didn't see you. It was only after you left behind the volcano and those people wanted to chase after you that I saw your figure that I helped you to stop them. As she spoke, she smiled slyly and said, I robbed all of their belongings. Hearing this, Guan Shilin was slightly surprised. So you were inside at that time? No wonder. I was still wondering why the people behind us didn't catch up. So it was you who helped us from behind. Hearing her say this, he finally understood. Fengjiu narrowed his eyes and picked up the treasures on the table to play with. At that time, it was because she saw his figure that she stood out to block those people. Otherwise, she wouldn't have meddled in other people's business. Master, you already have too many treasures to count. Fire Phoenix looked at the small mountain of treasures on the table and glanced at Guan Shilin. It's good to have an older brother. Guan Shilin was a big guy, but he treated his owner well. Hearing this, both of them laughed. All right, Xiaojiu, put everything away. Brother brought these for you. If you like them, you can keep them. If you don't like them, you can give them away. He said with a smile and motioned for her to put everything away. Brother, every time you go out, you bring back so many treasures for me. Did you keep some for yourself? When you marry in the future, you'll need betrothal gifts. And Yi Jing, she's in the lower continent now. Won't you find a time to go and marry her? She winked at him and said. Chapter 2187. Seeing the expression on his face, Fengjiu knew what he was thinking and said, Brother, how about this? Since you've come back, don't go out for the time being. Stay here and wait for me to settle things here, then I'll go with you. Even if the two of you don't plan to get married, you can still settle the marriage first so that Yi Jing's family won't make other arrangements for her. Hearing this, Guan Shilin smiled and said, Okay, then we'll go together. He then asked, But should we tell Godfather and the others about this? Although he had no family of his own, Xiaojiu's family was his family. If he wanted to settle the marriage, should he tell Godfather and the others? I'll send someone to send a message back when the time comes. When you marry Yi Jing in the future, you'll naturally need my father and the others to step in. She said with a smile. Looking at the treasures on the table, she said, Then I'll put these things away first. When you get married in the future, your little sister will naturally prepare good things for you. The brother and sister chatted in the courtyard. Because it was already dark, after the lanterns were lit, the two of them sat in the courtyard, eating, drinking, and chatting. Until, a figure quietly came. The three beasts in the courtyard glanced at the newcomer and went out to take a look, pretending not to see him. After all, as long as he was not an enemy, they could ignore him. You two siblings are in a good mood. Mo Chen, who was sitting on the wall and dressed in white, said as he looked at the two in the courtyard. Why didn't you go through the main door and climb over the wall to come in? Fengjiu saw him and couldn't help but smile. He was obviously an immortal-like figure, but he liked to climb over walls. This hobby was really strange. Mo Chen sat on the wall and sighed softly. It's not that I like to climb over walls and not go through the main door. It's just that I've come a few times and been blocked. I had no choice but to climb over the wall and take a look. Hearing this, Fengjiu was slightly surprised. Why were you blocked? I didn't ask anyone to stop you. After thinking for a while, he suddenly smiled. That's right. I was indeed a little busy a few days ago. They were probably worried that someone would disturb me, so they didn't let you in. As she spoke, she looked at him, raised her eyebrows, and smiled. Aren't you coming down for a drink or two? Hearing this, Mo Chen's eyes flashed and a trace of a smile flashed across his eyes. He then lightly leaped down and landed on the ground. At this time, Fengjiu called for the Leng Shuang outside to bring in another wine glass. Leng Shuang took the wine glass and stepped back. Fengjiu poured him a glass of wine. Mo Chen revealed a wisp of a smile towards Fengjiu when she saw this, and then she raised her wine cup and took a light sip. Gongzi Mo Chen, no matter what, this is my sister's courtyard. You're a man after all. It's best if you don't do this kind of behavior again. Guan Shilin said with a straight face. Cough cough. Mo Chen had just taken a sip of wine when he heard Guan Shilin's words. He couldn't help but choke. He put down the wine glass in his hand and looked at Guan Shilin, who had a straight face as if he was protecting a child. He couldn't help but sigh and shake his head. You're thinking too much. Your sister doesn't see me as a man at all. Fengjiu heard this and the corner of her mouth twitched. She glanced at Mo Chen. Guan Shilin frowned and stared at him. Chapter 2188. He looked at Fengjiu and said, I'm here tonight to see if you're back, about what happened a few days ago. I already know about what happened a few days ago, you don't have to tell me anymore. Fengjiu interrupted him and smiled, since you're here, let's drink and chat tonight. Seeing this, he smiled and said, all right. The three of them sat in the courtyard, chatting and drinking until late at night. When Guan Shilin and Mo Chen finally left, the next morning, someone from the Ling residence came to inform her that their master had woken up and wanted to see her. Thus, she went to the Ling residence after washing up. Ghost doctor, my master has really woken up. The old man saw her enter and quickly welcomed her with a face full of joy. Fengjiu nodded slightly and walked in. She saw the middle-aged man sitting on the bed with his eyes closed. Uncle Black, how do you feel? Fengjiu casually sat down on a chair beside the bed with a smile on her face. Her expression was natural as she asked in a relaxed tone. However, when she called him Uncle Black, the owner of the black market was stunned for a moment before he broke into laughter. Why did you call me Uncle Black? Did you think that because I'm the owner of the black market, you can call me Uncle Black? He looked at the beautiful woman in red in front of him, his eyes flashing. This was the ghost Dr. Fengjiu in person. In the past, all he saw were portraits, but today, seeing him in person, he knew that he was 100 times more realistic than the portraits. Fengjiu smiled and said, although I've dealt with the black market countless times, I still don't know your name. Since you're the owner of the black market, I think Uncle Black is quite suitable for you. Hearing this, he let out a low chuckle. The chuckle vibrated from his chest and seemed to have affected the injuries in his body. His face became pale and sweat seeped out of his forehead. However, there was still a happy smile on his face. It could be seen that he was in a good mood. Fine, Uncle Black it is then. You're probably the only one who dares to call me that. Actually, I have a question that I've wanted to ask for a long time. but I never had the chance. Now that Uncle Black is awake, why don't you answer my question? She narrowed her eyes and looked at him with a smile. Hearing this, the owner of the black market glanced at her with a smile in his eyes and asked, "You want to ask me why I've been taking care of you all these years?" Fengjiu nodded. Yes. Although we are talking about a cooperative relationship, it is true that the black market has helped me a lot. I also know that the black market has secretly helped me solve some problems, so I am a little curious. What is the reason? She looked at him and rested her chin on her hand. After thinking for a while, she said, "As far as I know, before this, I have never met you, Uncle Black, let alone saved you. So, why did you help me?" Even if it was a cooperative relationship, most of the time, the black market could stand by and do nothing. However, the black market didn't do that. Instead, they stood up and helped her solve the problem. Moreover, the black token was given to her just like that. Even if the people in the black market didn't say anything, she knew that there seemed to be something she didn't know. This time, since she had the opportunity to meet face to face, she naturally wanted to ask about it. Chapter 2189. Hearing this, Fengjiu's gaze fell on him. "Someone gave me your portrait and asked me to take care of you. You don't need to ask me who this person is because I don't know who he is. He saved my life a few years ago and I gave him a keepsake. That year, he had someone send that keepsake and your portrait over." Hearing this, Fengjiu was slightly surprised. She thought of all the people she knew and asked, "Was the person who saved you a man or a woman? Was it old or young?" The black uncle thought for a bit and smiled, "To you, it should be an old man." Old man? Fengjiu's heart skipped a beat. She thought of the old man who had given her the green lotus. After giving her the green lotus, there was no news of him. Could it be that he had asked the owner of the black market to take care of her? Other than him, she couldn't think of anyone else. "This time, I have to thank you for saving me." He looked at Fengjiu and said, "In the past, it was because of that favor. After that, you didn't need our help. Now that you saved my life, I have to repay this debt." Hearing this, Fengjiu smiled, "Then how does the black uncle want to repay me?" She looked at him and said with a smile, "This debt of saving my life is not something that can be repaid with money. Also, I don't lack money. Naturally." He nodded and said with a serious expression, "How about this? I'll give the black market to you." Fengjiu was stunned. "What? Did she hear wrong? I said, I'll give the black market to you. In the future, you'll be the black market master. How about it?" He revealed a smile and looked at her, thinking that this was a good idea. "This black market was created by you and you're giving it to me? How can that be?" She waved her hand. "Also, I don't have the energy to manage such a large black market. I don't want it." Seeing her face full of disdain, he couldn't help but twitch his mouth. "So many people are looking forward to my black market, but you have a face full of disdain. Do you know how much power and influence this black market has?" Hearing this, Fengjiu chuckled, "Black uncle, don't brag. The black market's power is quite big, I know that. But look, after you were poisoned by the 5 poison sect, which one of the black market's branches hasn't closed their doors? Now, I'm guessing that the people in your black market are causing a ruckus." She said casually, "The black market is a mess right now, I don't want to take over. I have enough troubles. Also, you've worked with me for a long time." Uncle Black smiled and shook his head. All right, that's a mess. It's fine if you don't want it. How about this? You. I don't want to suffer such a loss." She pursed her lips and glanced at him. "I was the one who saved you, and you want me to be your goddaughter? I even have to call you godfather? You're taking all the advantages." "That's because you don't know my true identity. You don't know how strong and powerful my family is. He smiled and shook his head. Looking at her, he said, I'm telling you the truth. Being my goddaughter isn't me taking advantage of you, but it's also very beneficial to you. Chapter 2190. Hearing this, his expression showed a moment of desolation, but he quickly covered it up and smiled. You don't have to worry about that. I haven't even married in my entire life, so how could I have children? If you become my daughter, everything I have will naturally be yours. Furthermore, your status won't be low. Even if my family members see you, they will have to show you some respect. Fengjiu was slightly surprised, looking at him sitting on the bed. You haven't married? That can't be. You don't look bad, and with that mighty and extraordinary figure, there shouldn't be no woman who likes you. Her gossipy nature was aroused, and she asked with a smile, is it because your standards are too high and you don't like anyone? Or is the woman you like married to someone else? Cough. The old man at the side coughed lightly. Fengjiu looked at the old man, and then looked at the dark uncle who seemed to be reminiscing, and couldn't help but say apologetically, I'm sorry, I'm too nosy. Sometimes, my curiosity just can't be stopped. It's fine. The dark uncle smiled, let's get down to business. Since I don't have any children, why don't you just take me as your daughter? Seeing that Fengjiu didn't say anything, he said, I haven't told you my family and name, actually. There's no rush, let me think about it. Fengjiu stood up, looked at him and said, Dark uncle, you should rest here first. I still have matters to attend to, so I'll be heading back first. Saying this, she didn't wait for him to speak, and left first. Seeing Fengjiu leave, the old man at the side said, Master, are you really going to take the ghost doctor as your daughter? If you really take her as your daughter, there will probably be people in the family who will oppose it. Humph. He snorted lightly, and said, when is it their turn to criticize my matters? As long as this little girl takes me as her adoptive father, I won't have to worry about my things falling into someone else's hands in the future. That's true, the ghost doctor's temperament is extremely good. If she can really become your little master, it will be a good thing for master. The old man smiled as he spoke. Then, he glanced at him on the bed and hesitated for a moment before saying, however, in this subordinate's opinion, it won't be easy for the ghost doctor to acknowledge you as his foster father. It doesn't matter. It's good that you acknowledge me. Even if you don't, I'll use other ways to repay you for saving my life. He slowly closed his eyes and said, help me lie down. Yes. The old man stepped forward and carefully helped him back to the bed to rest. When Fengjiu returned to the Feng manor, the white-clothed Mo Chen was already sitting in her courtyard. Seeing him, she was slightly surprised. You just left last night. Why have you come back so early in the morning? What's the matter? I was so engrossed in drinking and chatting last night that I forgot about the important matter. That's why I came over this morning to tell you about it. He poured tea and gestured for Fengjiu to sit. The person who came to seek medical treatment was someone from the Yin family. That person has already died and was sent back a few days ago. I thought that you wouldn't understand the Yin family, so I wanted to remind you. Hearing this, Fengjiu raised an eyebrow. That's the person that Leng Hua said had mutated? That's right, it wasn't a mutation. He was poisoned by corpse poison. Corpse poison? Fengjiu looked at him with surprise. What do you mean? Chapter 2191. His voice paused, and he glanced at her, slowly saying, the one who died was the son of the first wife of the Yin family. You have to be careful these days. I estimate that you've been facing one trouble after another recently. Hearing this, Fengjiu sighed softly, one hand holding her cheek. I haven't provoked anyone recently. But why are these troublesome matters coming to me one after another? She looked at him, asking, didn't you say that you can help me a little by following me? Are you able to deal with these matters? Hearing this, Chen chuckled. How can the forces you've provoked be ordinary? First it was the Temple of Dark Night, then it was the Five Poisoned Sect, and now it's the Een family's corpse-nurturing family. Not to mention the others, just any one of these three forces is not something an ordinary person can deal with. The Temple of Dark Night hasn't caused me any trouble recently. I estimate that after that place was destroyed by me, they're busy rebuilding it. The Five Poisoned Sect, on the other hand, I've heard that the Five Poisoned Sect's master's poison techniques are somewhat frightening. Only, I haven't fought with him before, and don't know how strong he is, so I can't guard against him. As for the Een family. Her voice paused, and she smiled. If they cause trouble for me because of this matter, then I naturally won't let them have an easy time. Saying this, she smiled. Right now, the master of the black market has already been cured of the poison. If the matter of the Five Poisoned Sect can be left to them to deal with themselves, then that's naturally the best. This way, I can also relax. Also, I plan to accompany my brother on a trip to the lower continents in a few days. You've also refined a 7th level antidote? Chen's gaze moved slightly. He didn't expect that she would actually be able to refine a 7th level antidote. And, they've all taken the 7th level antidote. The poison in their bodies has been cured, but their internal injuries still need to be healed. She frowned, saying, I just don't know when the people of the Five Poisoned Sect will come knocking on my door. The people I've sent out have been investigating for so long, but they still haven't found their whereabouts. Even if they want to infiltrate the Five Poisoned Sect to investigate, there's no way. Hearing this, Chen's expression changed, asking, You want to infiltrate the Five Poisoned Sect? Yes. She nodded. Although I wanted to leave this matter to the black market to deal with themselves, that black uncle's poison has been cured, but his body will need about a month to recover. If we meet again, there will be more problems, so I thought that if we can find out the truth, it would be better to make arrangements early. I'll go with you. What? She was startled and looked at him. He looked at her and said, I know where it is. I'll go with you. Where are we going? I'm going too. They followed the voice and saw Guan Shilin striding in. He sat down at their table and poured himself a cup of tea. Where did you say you were going? Count me in, I'll go too. Hearing this, Fengjiu and Chen looked at each other and smiled. She looked at Chen and said, If that's the case, why don't we leave now? Okay. Chen nodded. You still haven't told me where we're going? Guan Shilin asked from the side. Seeing the smiles on their faces, he felt a little strange. What were these two talking about? Why didn't he understand? We're going to one of the Five Poisoned Sect strongholds here, Chen said with a smile, saying, I just don't know if the Five Poisoned Sect master will be there. Chapter 2192. The people of the Five Poisoned Sect had injured so many people of the Heavenly Pill building. Even if they destroyed a small base, it would not be enough to compensate for the deaths of the Phoenix Guards in that battle. Alright, let's go. Chen also stood up, flicked his robe, and asked, Do you need to make some arrangements here? It might take a day or two to go back and forth. Leave a few small beasts here, and let Leng Hua and Du Fan know what to do. Fengjiu walked out, and the two people behind him looked at each other, then left as well. After giving instructions to Leng Hua and the others, Fengjiu and the other two quietly left. They followed Chen on their flying swords until they arrived at a valley in the evening. This is... Fengjiu looked at the valley in surprise. If it were not for Chen leading the way, she would not have been able to find such a steep and remote valley. The Five Poisoned Sect is a hidden force. I don't know where Zhengzhen is, but this place is where they gather when they are active outside. I also found out by chance that even if the sect master of the Five Poisoned Sect is not here, there will definitely be traces of the 12 poison envoys under him. However, they are all very good at using poison, so you all have to be careful. As he spoke, he took out a black cloak from the space and tied it around his body, covering his conspicuous white robe. Only then did he lead them inside. There is a formation here. Guan Shilin followed them, and also noticed that there was a formation protecting this place. Not only is there a formation, there is also a poisonous fog inside. Mo Chen, who was at the front, said without even turning her head. After she led them out of the formation, they saw a dense fog. At this time, the sky had already darkened, and it was difficult to see clearly in the darkness. The three of them stopped here. Feng Jiu handed them a detoxification pill and gave it to them before continuing to walk forward. After the time it takes to burn a stick of incense, they came to the edge of the cliff. Looking down, they could only see faint flickering lights. Feng Jiu and Guan Shilin couldn't help but be slightly surprised. They didn't expect to see such a scene inside. So they were hiding at the bottom of the valley. No wonder we couldn't find them. Feng Jiu suddenly said, "This place is surrounded by mountains and fog. It is indeed a good place to hide, but how are we going to get down? If we fly down on our swords, we might be noticed by them." "There's a staircase over there," Mo Chen said. He then said to the two of them, "Restrain your auras and follow me." The two of them nodded and retracted their auras. They quietly followed behind him until they reached the bottom of the valley and saw two groups of people patrolling in the night. "Avoid them. We'll go around them from the back," Mo Chen said in a low voice as he led them to the other side. When they arrived at a courtyard, they saw a middle-aged man with a broken arm talking to a few other people. "I will not let the people from the Heavenly Pill building off. That Guan Shilin who broke my arm. I will definitely tear him to pieces." As he spoke, he clenched his fist and slammed it heavily on the table. Chapter 2193. They raised their wine bowls and clinked them together, shouting, "Cheers," and downed the wine in one gulp. After downing the wine, they put down their wine cups. Some of them ate side dishes, some poured wine, and some said, "Master's 10,000 poisonous hands has reached the final stage. We can't let anything happen in the next few days. What are you worried about? This place is so secluded, and we, the 8 poison emissaries, are guarding this place. How could anything happen?" One of them said as he ate with his chopsticks. "That's right. With the strength of the 8 of us and so many people guarding this place, even a mosquito wouldn't be able to fly in." The 4 people inside chatted. In the shadows, Feng Jiu and the other 2 made a hand signal and quietly retreated. After they arrived at a safe place, Feng Jiu's eyes flashed. She lowered her voice and said, "I didn't think that the 5 Venoms sect master would actually be here. Furthermore, his 10,000 poisons hands is already at the final juncture." Those 4 people said that the 8 poison emissaries are guarding this place. It seems that other than the 4 people drinking there, the other 4 must be guarding the place where the 5 poison sect master cultivates. Guan Shilin also lowered his voice and said, "It seems that we came at the right time." Mo Chen smiled and looked at the 2 people, "Don't alert the enemy. Let's search in secret first. Finding the place where the 5 poison sect master cultivates is the most important thing. How about we capture one person and interrogate him?" Guan Shilin asked. "It's no use," Feng Jiu and Mo Chen said at the same time. They looked at each other and said to Guan Shilin, "The people of the 5 poison sect are all poisoned. It's very difficult to get information from them. If we capture someone, there's a risk of being exposed. It's better to search in secret." "That's right." Mo Chen nodded. "This place is not very big. If the 3 of us split up and search, it should not be difficult to find the location of the 5 Venoms sect master. However, we cannot act alone when searching for someone. We must discuss this before making any plans. All right. The two of them agreed. After discussing where to meet up after a while, they each chose a direction to search in. At this moment, it was deep into the night. Although the people in the mountain valley were patrolling, no one had noticed that 3 people had quietly snuck in. Even the 4 great poison envoys, who were drinking and chatting, did not expect that the people they were talking about would discover this place. Moreover, they had already entered this place without their knowledge. The 3 of them were considered powerful, and coupled with the fact that they had concealed their auras, not to mention the poison envoys, the patrolling poison sect guards were even more unable to discover them. However, it wasn't easy to find the hiding place of the 5 poison sect master in the courtyards built in the valley. After searching for a while, they still couldn't find him. It wasn't until close to midnight that Guan Shilin had to pee and went to the back of the courtyards against the mountain to relieve himself. Who would have thought that with a casual glance, he would discover a cave residence? After relieving himself, he quietly approached and saw that it was pitch black in front of him. There were lights everywhere, but none here. However, there was a cave at the foot of the mountain. In front of the cave, there were 2 middle-aged men in black robes sitting cross-legged with their eyes closed. Chapter 2194. Moreover, there was still a distance of about 100 meters from the cave in front of the barrier. Fortunately, there was this distance, otherwise he would definitely be discovered if he were to relieve himself in front of the cave. There was no barrier anywhere else, but there was one here, and there were people guarding it. Moreover, there wasn't even a single lamp lit. It could be seen that the 5 Venom sect master was definitely inside. He quietly retreated, returning to the agreed-upon place to wait. Not long after, he saw Mo Chen and Feng Jiu arrive one after the other. He beckoned to the 2, and when the 2 came closer, he lowered his voice and said, "I found the place where the 5 Venom sect master is hiding." Feng Jiu's gaze moved when he heard this, asking, "Where?" Guan Shilin pointed forward, saying, "It's in front of the cave, but there's a barrier there. Moreover, I only saw 2 poison envoys guarding outside the cave, but I didn't see the other 2. If we break the barrier and enter, we will definitely alarm everyone. What should we do now? 2 hands can't fight 4 fists. Aren't you also very good at poison? How about we give them some poison?" Mo Chen looked at Feng Jiu and said. Hearing this, Feng Jiu's mouth twitched, and he glanced at him. This person had the appearance of a banished immortal, but when it came to scheming, he was even more vicious than her, directly saying to use poison. "No, poison may not be effective against these people," she said slowly, saying, "The people of the poison sect are more sensitive to the smell of medicine and poison than normal people. Whether it's using medicine or poison on them, it's not appropriate." She pondered, saying, "I have an idea." "What idea?" The 2 looked at her. "Creating a diversion," Feng Jiu said, using a diversion tactic to divert their attention. She looked at the 2, saying, "The 3 of us will split into 2 teams. One team will divert their attention, and the other team will be the main attack. The lives of the others are secondary, but it's best if we use this opportunity to kill the 5 Venom sect master. Otherwise, if he succeeds in cultivating his extremely powerful poison arts, it will indeed cause serious casualties." Hearing this, Guan Shilin said, "Xiao Jiu, how about this? I will divert their attention. You and Mo Chen will be the main attackers to deal with the 5 poison sect master. I feel that if we divert their attention, at most 1 or 2 poison envoys will come towards us. They will most likely go to guard the 5 poison sect master in the cave dwelling. Therefore, you must be extremely careful." Yeah, I think what he said makes sense. As the main attacker, we have to face more danger. We have to be prepared. Mo Chen nodded and looked at Guan Shilin. "But don't be careless. The people here are all experts in using poison. Don't get poisoned by them." "I know. Xiaojiu asked me to take the antidote pill. Normal poisons can't do anything to me. As for other things, I'll be careful. He nodded. Okay, then it's decided. Fengjiu said, looking at Guan Shilin. Brother, you have to be careful. If you can't beat them, run. Hearing this, Guan Shilin smiled. Okay, I know. Let's go. I'll take you there first, then we'll act according to the situation. He brought the two of them to the cave abode they had discovered. After arriving at the cave abode, the few of them discussed in low voices for a while before splitting up. After the time it took for half an incense stick to burn, Guan Shilin lit fires all over the valley. The blazing fire lit up the entire valley as if it was daytime. In an instant, as the fire burned in the valley, the originally tranquil valley was filled with screams and curses. Chapter 2195. Damn it! How could there be a fire? Quickly put out the fire. Amidst the shouts and curses, the four people who were drinking in the courtyard quickly came out to take a look. When they saw the raging fire all around the valley, they were shocked. How could there be a fire for no reason? Could it be that someone has snuck in? The four people were shocked. One of them grabbed a poison guard who was running in front of him and asked, "What's going on? How could there be a fire? Did someone break in?" Poison envoy, we didn't find anyone breaking in. However, there are flames all around. Someone has already gone to check. The man was just speaking when he was suddenly interrupted by a voice. Ha 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 ha. So this is your lair. This fire makes me, your Grandpa Guan, feel so good. A sudden burst of laughter rang out in the night, startling everyone, especially the middle-aged man with the broken arm. When he heard this voice, he stared in the direction of the voice in disbelief. On top of a protruding rock in the valley, a well-built figure was standing there with a long saber in his hand. He raised his head and laughed loudly. The provocative words and the deafening laughter caused the poison envoy with the broken arm to boil with rage. It's you, Guan Shilin. You actually dare to come here. You're here to die. The middle-aged poison envoy shouted angrily. His voice carried the aura of spiritual power, clearly spreading in the night. He's the Guan Shilin who cut off your arm? The three people next to him looked at the figure standing on top of the valley in astonishment. Under the light of the fire, the figure was very conspicuous. He looked to be no more than 20 years old. How could such a person have reached the martial god realm? It's him. The one-armed poison envoy said through gritted teeth. Since he dared to come here, we'll capture him and use him to test our new poison. One of them said sinisterly, staring at the figure of Guan Shilin. The man who had been silent all this time looked at the surrounding fire and suddenly had a bad feeling. He said, "How did this person know about this place? He shouldn't have come here alone. Could he have other accomplices?" Hearing this, the other three people were startled. "How about this? You two go and deal with that Guan Shilin. The two of us will go and check on Master. If there is nothing wrong, we will rush back to help." All right. Hearing this, no one objected. They responded and went their separate ways. The poison envoy with the broken arm and the other poison envoy gathered their chi and headed towards Guan Shilin. The other two went to the cave behind him. "Guan Shilin. How dare you come here? Today, I won't let you leave." The one-armed poison envoy flicked his sleeve, and several hidden weapons shot out toward Guan Shilin. At the same time, he stretched out his hand, and a long sword appeared in his hand. With a surge of spiritual power, the sword aura shot out, and a cold killing intent instantly enveloped the area. Ha ha ha. Guan Shilin raised his head and laughed. His laughter suddenly stopped, and he stared at him fiercely. "I let you escape last time. Today, I, your Grandpa Guan, will take your life." As he spoke, his chi surged, and he waved the saber in his hand, forming a protective shield in front of him. Clang! 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 Chapter 2196. Seeing this, the other poison envoy narrowed his eyes viciously. "Martial god level, I didn't expect you to be so capable." He stared at Guan Shilin and said, "Let me fight you." As soon as he finished speaking, he stretched out his hands and two scimitars appeared in his hands. With a surge of spiritual power, his figure swept out like a ghost and slashed at Guan Shilin at lightning speed. Whoosh! Clang! Whoosh whoosh! Whoosh! The two figures fought back and forth at an extremely fast speed. One was at the martial god level and the other was at the celestial sage level. Both of them were equal in strength, but it seemed that Guan Shilin's fighting strength was slightly better. After all, he had improved his fighting strength by steadily gaining experience in the outside world, while his opponent was a poison envoy who mainly used poison. Although his cultivation of spiritual power had reached the celestial sage level, his fighting strength was naturally incomparable to Guan Shilin's. Clang! The two blades collided with each other, emitting a sonorous sound. A powerful airflow burst out from their bodies, causing their robes to flutter in the wind. Guan Shilin continued to increase the strength of the scimitar in his hand, causing the poison envoy to be unable to bear the pressure and gradually retract his scimitar. Sweat oozed from his forehead and he gritted his teeth. He wanted to free one hand, but he couldn't block the pressure from his opponent with one hand. At this moment, the one-armed poison envoy attacked from behind and was about to launch a sneak attack. At this moment, Guan Shilin pressed his scimitar down and lifted his foot to kick his opponent. As he kicked him, he waved the scimitar in his hand and directly swept it across. "Ha!" He shouted in a low voice and waved his scimitar. When the scimitar was waved, a fierce chi of saber force attacked. The poison envoy blocked the attack with his scimitars, but the chi of saber force still cut a deep wound on his body. Hiss! He sucked in a breath of air, and his body suddenly retreated, falling from the air. He half knelt on the ground with one leg, and used the saber to support his body. He looked down at the saber wound on his chest, and felt that he couldn't exert any strength. He hurriedly took out some medicine and applied it on his wound. In the air, after swinging his saber, Guan Shilin turned around to attack the one-armed poison envoy. His opponent only had one hand, and his old injury had not healed yet, so he was no match for Guan Shilin. Soul-chasing slash! Guan Shilin let out a loud shout as he waved the saber in his hand. Several saber energies whizzed out from the saber and slashed towards the one-armed poison envoy. Damn it! You! The poison envoy was shocked when he saw this. He wanted to retreat, but it was too late. He managed to avoid two of the saber chi, but he could not avoid the last one. He felt a chill on his neck, and with a swoosh sound, his head was chopped off and sent flying. Seeing this, the poison envoy below who was applying medicine to stop the bleeding revealed a shocked expression. The medicine bottle in his hand fell to the ground and he didn't bother to pick it up. He immediately shouted to the surrounding poison guards, "Go! All of you, attack! Kill him!" As for himself, he retreated step by step towards the cave where his master was in seclusion. Too awesome. That damned Guan Shilin was too awesome. With that kind of amazing fighting strength, I'm afraid that even if 3 or 4 people joined forces, they wouldn't be his match. Damn it! He never knew that a martial god-level cultivator's fighting strength could be so amazing. When he thought about how that head had been cut off so suddenly, without even a chance to scream or escape, he couldn't help but feel a chill run down his spine. Chapter 2197. His heart was flustered and filled with fear as he walked towards the cave. However, before he could even get close, he froze. His eyes widened in shock as he stared at the scene in front of him. He saw that the enchantment that had been protecting the cave had already been broken. In front of him, a handsome man dressed in white robes, who looked like a banished immortal, was dealing with 3 poison envoys. What shocked him was that the man was actually handling the attacks of the 3 poison envoys with ease. On the ground, 1 poison envoy had already been killed. The 3 poison envoys had joined forces, but they could not even touch the man's sleeves. In just a few moves, another poison envoy had been killed by the man in white with a single slash of his sword. Looking at the fallen poison envoy and the remaining 2 poison envoys fearfully taking a step back and staring at the man in white, he could not help but hesitate for a moment. Go up? Looking at the situation, going up would only result in death. It would be better to stay here and observe the situation first. Thus, after making up his mind, the injured poison envoy hid in a dark corner and watched. Who are you? What grudges do you have with our 5 poison sect? You actually want to interfere in the matter between us and the Heavenly Pill building? One of the poison envoys shouted sternly as he stared viciously at the banished immortal-like man. Mo Chen had one hand behind his back while the other pointed at his sword. His gaze was calm as he looked at the 2 of them. In a warm voice, he said, I have no grudges with you. However, you've provoked someone you shouldn't have provoked. Someone we shouldn't have provoked? Are you referring to the Heavenly Pill Building's ghost Dr. Fengjiu? Or the master of the black market? The poison envoy asked with a frown. The corners of Mo Chen's lips curled up. You're about to die. What's the use of asking so many questions? As soon as his voice fell, the white figure instantly swept out. A powerful pressure instantly filled the air. The 2 poison envoys were shocked by his pressure and their bodies seemed to freeze in that moment. They could not move at all. However, in that short moment, they had already lost their lives. Bang bang. The 2 figures widened their eyes in horror as their bodies fell straight to the ground. As dignified celestial saints, they were actually suppressed by the other party's aura. To be able to suppress them, this person's strength was far above them. Seeing the 2 figures fall, the poison envoy who was peeking from 100 meters away could not help but cover his mouth. He looked at the immortal-like man in shock. When he saw the man glance in his direction, he could not help but shiver. He turned around and endured the injuries on his body as he quickly fled for his life. It was too terrifying. It was too terrifying. With that kind of strength, who would dare to fight against him? Mo Chen watched as the poison envoy fled, but he didn't give chase. In his opinion, there was nothing to be afraid of. Since they had escaped, so be it. Now, it was better to go in and see if Fengjiu needed help. Thus, in order to prevent those poison guards from entering, he stretched out his hand and set up a formation to block them. Only then did he stride inside. When he arrived inside, he was surprised to see 2 corpses lying on the ground. Looking inside, he could no longer see Fengjiu's figure. Thus, he continued to walk inside. He was aware of her strength. Dealing with these people would not be a problem. However, he was a little uneasy about dealing with the 5 poison sect master. Inside, Fengjiu pushed open the last door and saw the figure sitting cross-legged in the cave. That person also opened his eyes when she pushed open the door. His gaze, filled with hostility, swept towards her. Ghost Dr. Fengjiu. Chapter 2198. The person who came was dressed in a red dress. Her aura was restrained, yet she exuded a noble and lazy aura. Her beautiful face was the portrait of Ghost Dr. Fengjiu that his subordinate had shown him. This person was Ghost Dr. Fengjiu. However, even he did not expect that she would dare to sneak in here. Fengjiu extended her hand and the azure-edged sword instantly appeared. The tip of the sword pointed to the ground. She stared at the 5 Venoms sect master who was surrounded by a black aura and curled her lips. Looks like I came at the right time. As her voice fell, the red figure swept forward. As her clothes fluttered, the azure-edged sword pierced towards the person who was sitting cross-legged with lightning speed. Before the tip of the sword touched the 5 Venoms sect master, the aura of the sword tip had already attacked. The aura of the aura visible to the naked eye was shocking and murderous. However, this aura of the sword aura was blocked by a black aura. The two auras, one green and one black, intertwined. With a bang, the aura of the aura dispersed and disappeared into the air. When the two auras dispersed and disappeared, the azure-edged sword in Fengjiu's hand pierced forward. The 5 Venoms sect master who was sitting cross-legged moved his hands. The black aura coiled up and his hands quickly caught Fengjiu's long sword, using the strength of his hands to block the azure-edged sword that was piercing forward. Fengjiu wanted to stab the azure-edged sword another inch forward, but she was unable to move it. On the contrary, under her strength and the 5 Venoms sect master's obstruction, the two auras repelled each other and the sword gradually bent. The hand holding the sword trembled. The strength was so great that she could not pull the sword out even if she wanted to. She had the strength of a celestial saint and her profound strength cultivation had long reached the martial god level. However, the opponent's strength was above hers. He had the strength of a venerable immortal. Moreover, he had the strength of a peak venerable immortal. This strength was one stage lower than hers. In terms of strength and pressure, he suppressed her, causing her to be unable to gain the upper hand. She only saw the 5 Venoms sect master's hands that were surrounded by aura slowly turn. In the next moment, the aura suddenly became stronger and with a bang, it heavily struck her. She let out a muffled groan and retreated several meters before stabilizing her footing. She felt the blood and qi surging in her chest, and a trace of blood rushed up to her throat and overflowed from the corner of her mouth. She wiped away the blood at the corner of her mouth and frowned slightly as she stared at the 5 Venoms sect master. She felt the hand holding the sword tremble slightly and the web between her thumb and index finger go numb. The strength of a peak immortal venerable couldn't be underestimated. Chapter 2199. Immediately, she mobilized the qi in her body and changed her pace. The azure sword in her hand once again attacked forward. The 5 Venoms sect master flicked his sleeve and went forward. He did not hold any weapon in his hand and only used the wind from his sleeve as a blade. With a flick of his sleeve, a strong qi flow blocked Fengjiu's incoming sword. His palm struck forward. Xiao. A qi flow attacked with a xiao sound. Accompanied by a black gas, it instantly attacked Fengjiu. Fengjiu quickly dodged to the side. That qi flow swept past her and landed on the wall behind her. It melted the wall and created a cave. Seeing this scene, her heart sank. She stared at him with a serious expression. What a powerful poison technique. Not only was his body covered in poison, the qi flow that attacked also contained poison. If she was hit, it would be difficult to preserve her life. Fengjiu, there is a path to heaven but you don't want to take it. There is no door to hell but you insist on entering. Today, this sovereign wants to see how you will survive. A gloomy voice sounded. His gaze was filled with hostility as he stared at the extremely dazzling beauty in red. Suddenly, he revealed a strange smile. No, killing you is really too much of a pity. Such a beautiful woman, if she were to be this sovereign's concubine in bed, would definitely be in ecstasy. Hearing this, Fengjiu's gaze turned cold. Her ice-cold eyes stared at the 5 Venoms sect master. She sneered, "Keep on dreaming." Her body's speed increased in an instant. Her footsteps were ethereal and strange. She spun the azure sword in her hand and channeled the spirit force in her palm. With a "hoot" sound, the life flame sprang up from the sword blade. The scarlet flame and the azure sword chi fused together as if they had become one. Xiao! Hu! The sword shadow swept out with flames. The swift and fierce chi flow was like a fire dragon surging violently. It was also like a ferocious tiger pouncing forward. It rushed towards the five Venom sect master at a speed that was too fast for the ears to cover. Hiss! That sword came too quickly, breaking through his defenses and aiming for a fatal spot on his body. In that instant, in order to avoid the fatal spot, he used both his hands to summon chi to try and catch the incoming sword. But who would have thought that before his palms could get close, they would be blasted away by the green-edged sword chi, and he would be burned by the flames on the sword blade. As he staggered back, the sword stabbed into his shoulder, and the icy cold sword chi mixed with the scorching hot flames instantly spread from the wound to his entire body, causing him to suck in a breath of cold air. Ah! He endured the pain from the ice and fire and sent his palm forward, releasing poison gas. In order to avoid that palm, Fengjiu turned the sword that had pierced his shoulder, dug a hole in his shoulder, and pulled it out. Damn it! He cursed angrily. He didn't need to look to know that blood was gushing out from his shoulder. He immediately raised his hand and pressed on the surrounding pressure points to stop the bleeding. Because he was injured, a vicious aura spread out. The black figure turned into a black smoke and rushed towards Fengjiu. She only saw black smoke in front of her, but she couldn't see the figure of the five Venom sect master. It was also at this moment that she suddenly felt a cold killing intent enveloping her. But at that moment, she couldn't even tell where the killing intent came from. Be careful. Mo Chen's voice entered her ears. Immediately after, she felt her waist being hugged by someone. Her body spun and left her original place. When she steadied herself, she saw a black figure rushing out from the black smoke. Beside her was Mo Chen, who was dressed in white. Chapter 2200. I'm fine. She shook her head and said, "The five Venom sect master has run away, let's chase after him." With that, she quickly rushed outside. Seeing that she was fine, Mo Chen glanced at the cave and then chased after her. When the five Venom sect master rushed outside, he saw that the poison envoys guarding the cave had been killed one by one. When he exited the cave, he saw flames soaring into the sky. The flames illuminated more than half of the valley, and he could hear the sounds of battle in the distance. Seeing this scene, the chi and blood in his body surged. His hands clenched into fists, and he raised his head and roared, "Fengjiu! A mere woman dared to make an enemy out of him. A mere woman. She dared to destroy his poison valley. She killed so many of his poison envoys." At this moment, his heart was filled with hatred. He did not try to escape, but turned around and stared at the exit of the cave. She dared to kill his poison envoys. She dared to destroy his poison valley. He would make her suffer a fate worse than death. When Fengjiu and Mo Chen chased after him, they saw him standing there, staring at them with a gloomy face. Seeing him, Mo Chen's gaze moved slightly, and he secretly sized him up. Seeing that the poison envoys were strong and murderous, he could not help but pull back Fengjiu, who was about to step forward. "Don't be rash, you're still not his match." As he spoke, he pulled her back and said, "His strength is at the peak of immortal venerable, and unlike his subordinates, he has rich battle experience. You must not be careless. If we don't get rid of this person, he will become a great threat." Fengjiu said with a frown. Staring at the five Venom sect master in front of them, he said to Mo Chen, "It is indeed difficult for me to gain the upper hand against him. His poison arts are very powerful, even stone walls can be dissolved and corroded. If we are hit, the consequences will be unthinkable. If we want to kill him on the spot, we can only have a chance of winning if we join hands. While the two of them were speaking in low voices, the five Venom sect masters' gaze swept past Fengjiu and landed on Mo Chen, who was dressed in white and looked like an immortal. He narrowed his eyes. "And who are you?" "Tian Jizi's disciple, Mo Chen." As he spoke, his calm gaze landed on the five poison sect master. Hearing this, the five poison sect master sneered, "I have no grudges with Tian Jizi. Since you are his disciple, why are you involved in this matter? Could it be that he's taken a fancy to this Fengjiu and wants to win a smile from her?" Hearing these words, Mo Chen smiled and slowly walked forward. "I've heard that the five poison sect masters' poison arts can be said to be unparalleled. Today, I'd like to see if it is truly as powerful as the rumors say." As he spoke, his figure flashed and moved towards the five poison sect master at an extremely fast speed. Fengjiu stood to the side and watched. When she saw that Mo Chen's aura was that of a peak ultimate venerable, she could not help but be slightly surprised. Normally, he would restrain his aura, so she thought that his strength was not so strong. She did not expect him to have the strength of a peak immortal venerable. Many cultivators had to be over 100 years old or even a few hundred years old before they could have the strength of an immortal venerable. But he, at such a young age, already had such a heaven-defying cultivation base. Saying that her strength was already abnormal, she felt that the strength of the people around her was truly heaven-defying. After all, her current cultivation base was not only due to her profound spiritual body, but also due to the assistance of medicinal pills. But they had steadily increased their strength from one stage to the next. Chapter 2201. The air was filled with the powerful aura of a venerable immortal. That aura was heavy and oppressive. If she did not have the protection of the ancient aura, she probably would not have been able to withstand the powerful aura of two venerable immortals. Bang! Bang bang! The air current on the ground fell. She saw the venerable poison master's palm strike and a hole appeared in the ground due to the corrosion. She raised her eyes and saw that the honorable poison master had several wounds on his body as he fought with Mo Chen. Because of the wound on his shoulder, his complexion was somewhat unsightly. Moreover, the more they fought, the more chaotic his aura became. If nothing unexpected happened, Mo Chen should be able to defeat him very quickly. Thinking of this, she felt relieved. Although his strength was comparable to Mo Chen's fighting strength was getting stronger and stronger. It was not a problem for Mo Chen to suppress him. If she had not seen it with her own eyes, she would not have known that he had such strength. Xiao Jiu. Mo Chen raised her head and looked towards the source of the voice. She saw Guan Shilin, who was covered in blood, walking towards her with a broadsword in his hand. At this moment, the sect leader of the Five Venoms sect was sent flying by Mo Chen's palm. His figure retreated towards Guan Shilin. Seeing this, Mo Chen was shocked and quickly shouted, "Dodge!" Guan Shilin saw that person retreating towards him and immediately swung his saber towards that person without thinking. After all, in this place, other than Fengjiu and Mo Chen, everyone else could be killed. The biting cold chi of the saber force brought along a swift and fierce chi as it whizzed out, attacking the Five Venoms sect master. The Five Venoms sect master, who was retreating, sensed the murderous intent coming from behind him. Seeing Fengjiu's nervous expression, he immediately sneered, and his figure quickly turned back. After seeing clearly who had come, he dodged his attack. At the same time, he stretched out his hand to grab his neck. "Brother!" Fengjiu's heart skipped a beat. Without a second thought, she gathered her chi and rushed forward. Because her speed was not as fast as the other party, she immediately raised the Qingfeng sword in her hand and sent it flying out with a swift and fierce chi, piercing towards the hand that was grabbing her brother's neck. Guan Shilin, on the other hand, felt his entire body stiffen in that instant. He was shrouded by a powerful pressure and was unable to move. He could only watch as the man revealed a sinister smile that was filled with murderous intent. He watched as the man's dark purple hand reached for his neck. The aura of death enveloped him in that instant, but at that moment, he did not have the slightest ability to resist. Ever since he entered the martial god realm and had been training outside to increase his strength, this was the first time he had encountered such a powerful opponent. The other party's mere pressure was enough to suppress him and render him unable to move. The strength of this person's strength made his heart tremble involuntarily. He had originally thought that he was strong enough to protect himself and the people he wanted to protect. However, he did not expect that there would always be someone stronger. With his strength, he could deal with cultivators who were on par with him, but against a strong person who was so much stronger than him, he did not even have the chance to resist. However, he wasn't willing to be killed just like that, and was even more unwilling to watch this scene unfold before his eyes. Thus, the fury in his heart caused the profound energy aura in his body to surge violently like a broken dam, slamming against his heart. The unwillingness and strong willpower in his heart caused the battle intent in his body to surge forth, attacking his bound body again and again. Chapter 2202. Xiao. The swift and fierce sword pierced over with a xiao sound, causing the hand that was reaching for his throat to be forcibly pulled back to avoid the azure-edged sword that was flying over. However, when the azure-edged sword flew past, his hand once again attacked. This time, it carried the determination to win. One could even see the sinister light in his eyes and the bloodthirsty smile at the corner of his mouth. In his ears, he heard his sister Fengjiu's panicked cries. In his body, a surging battle intent and a powerful profound energy aura suddenly surged. Like the waves of the ocean, it instantly stirred up 1,000 layers of waves. At the same time, a powerful battle intent and profound energy aura suddenly surged out from his body. A visible stream of air, carrying a dazzling light, suddenly burst forth and attacked the 5 poison sect master who was attacking him. At the same time, his body moved and he quickly avoided the hand that was about to grab him. He raised the large saber in his hand and waved it. Whoosh! The large saber flew out with a saber aura. The saber chopped towards the 5 poison sect master with a force that was too fast for one to cover one's ears. It chopped off the hand that the 5 poison sect master had not been able to pull back in time. Hiss! Ah! A mournful voice filled with disbelief rang out. In that instant, it soared into the sky. A powerful venerable immortal's aura was released from that miserable scream. It pervaded the entire valley and shook the ground. Ah! A hand flew out. Because of the force, it spun a few times in the air before falling to the ground. The 5 poison sect master held his chopped-off arm and quickly retreated. At this moment, he was close to madness. Because the air around his body was like a deflated balloon, hissing sounds were heard. His poison technique dispersed from the cut on his arm, causing his face to be pale and bloodless. Seeing this scene, Fengjiu was stunned. She stopped moving and looked on in disbelief. Her brother had actually chopped off the 5 poison sect master's right hand by accident? And this right hand was where his life gate was located? Looking at the 5 venom sect master's poison arts dissipating, as well as his face of disbelief and rage, how could she not know that this blade had almost destroyed him? She reckoned that even if he was lucky enough to escape from their hands, it would be very difficult for him to cultivate the poison arts again. Seeing this scene, Mo Chen was also stunned. He glanced at Guan Shilin who was surging with battle intent. Who would have thought that the sect master of the 5 poison sect, a pinnacle immortal venerate, would have his Achilles heel severed by a single slash from Dumbo? Moreover, the sect master's Achilles heel was on his right hand? If Guan Shilin had not chopped off his hand, it would have been difficult for him to discover that his Achilles heel was in such a place. Compared to their stupefied expressions, Guan Shilin was filled with fighting spirit. His battle instincts were screaming for him to wield his sword and fight with all his might. Therefore, he did not think about anything else at this moment. All he wanted to do was to get rid of the person in front of him. Ha! Soul-chasing slash. He suddenly moved forward and waved the saber in his hand. His profound chi aura surged, and with the chi of the saber, he viciously chopped down at the 5 Poisons sect master. The 5 Poisons sect master's eyes were red. The air around his body surged and blew his hair loose. After dodging the attack, he roared at Guan Shilin. I'm going to kill you. Kill you. Whoosh. Bang bang bang. Chapter 2203. Brother. Be careful. Feng Jiu shouted. Seeing the 5 Poison sect master madly attacking her brother, she immediately rushed forward, wanting to pull him back. But at this moment, who would have thought that the 5 Poison sect master, who was originally attacking her brother, would suddenly turn around and charge towards her at an extremely fast speed. Feng Jiu. Be careful. Xiao Jiu. When Mo Chen and Guan Shilin saw this scene, their hearts couldn't help but jump. Without thinking, they rushed forward. However, no matter how fast the two of them were, they couldn't be faster than the sect master of the 5 Poisons, who was only a few steps away from Feng Jiu. Seeing the sinister smile of the sect master of the 5 Poisons' crazed face, Feng Jiu's heart skipped a beat. Oh no! I've been tricked. The 5 Poisons' main target wasn't her brother, but her. However, even though she was vigilant, the speed at which the other party suddenly rushed towards her was too fast. In addition, she had already increased her speed to begin with. Under the force of the impact, she couldn't stop or retreat even if she wanted to. In the blink of an eye, the sect master of the 5 Poisons had already flashed to her side and grabbed her by the throat. His ice-cold hand was still stained with blood. His wet hand was strangling her throat, making her feel especially uncomfortable. Because he was strangling her so tightly, she couldn't breathe. She couldn't help but stand on her tiptoes to relieve the suffocating feeling. Xiao Jiu. Let her go. Guan Shilin and Mo Chen came to the side of the two people, one in front and one behind. However, Feng Jiu's throat was already clasped. Her life was in the hands of the sect master of the 5 Poisons, so the two of them didn't dare to make the slightest movement. They were afraid that the sect master of the 5 Poisons would hurt Feng Jiu. Stop. Both of you stop. If you dare come any closer, I'll break her neck. The 5 Venoms sect master shouted in a gloomy voice. He tightened his grip on Feng Jiu's neck, causing Mo Chen and Guan Shilin's hearts to skip a beat. The two of them stopped and looked at Feng Jiu, who was being held captive. They were anxious, but there was nothing they could do about the situation. As long as they made the slightest movement, the 5 Venoms sect master would definitely kill her before they made a move. Feng Jiu frowned slightly. This feeling of being under someone else's control was terrible. The hand that was tightly gripping her neck did not loosen at all. It was as if she moved, he would break her neck. Being under someone else's control, even she did not dare to act rashly. Ha ha ha. The leader of the 5 Venoms sect laughed maniacally. He stared at Mo Chen and Guan Shilin with a vicious and bloodthirsty gaze. If you dare to follow me, I will kill her. Don't challenge my patience. Chapter 2204. On the other side, Feng Jiu, who had been abducted, had her major acupoints sealed and her spiritual energy and aura sealed. After leaving the valley, she saw the Honorable Poison Master take out a transportation scroll and knock her unconscious, bringing her along with him, instantly disappearing into the forest of the valley. In a cave, in front of the one-armed 5 Venoms sect master, there were more than 10 bottles and jars. With one hand, he poured the medicine into a stone bowl in front of him and mixed it inside. Finally, he took out a medicine bottle and poured it into the stone bowl. What came out of the bottle was fresh blood. That fresh blood and various medicines mixed together and gradually condensed. He revealed a strange smile and turned the medicine inside into a red pill the size of an elixir. Picking up that pill, he laughed sinisterly, his laughter filled with madness and viciousness. "Ghost doctor? I'll let you have a taste of the honorable poison master's power." His blood-red eyes looked at the red pill in his hand and his sinister laughter came out of his mouth. That laughter was mixed with madness, causing people to tremble in fear. He took that pill and came to the unconscious Fengjiu's side. Pinching open her mouth, he stuffed the pill in and then silently sat to one side, watching Fengjiu's reaction. Fengjiu was awoken by the pungent smell of blood. When she opened her eyes, she felt something strange in her mouth. She frowned and sat up, feeling a burning sensation in the blood vessels in her body. "What did you feed me?" She stared at the five venom sect master, who was sitting to one side, using a sinister gaze to stare at her. Her heart suddenly felt uneasy. At this moment, all of her major acupoints had been sealed and her spiritual energy and aura had been sealed. She was completely unable to mobilize it. And the profound energy and aura that she had never used before, she did not dare to reveal even the slightest bit, afraid that he would discover that there was another aura in her body. Right now, the only chance she had to escape from his hands was to take advantage of his unpreparedness. Only, she did not know what medicine he had fed her while she was unconscious. Even if she did not know what medicine it was, she knew that it was definitely not something good. "What did you eat?" "Ha! You'll find out soon enough." He stared at her, his blood-red eyes glowing with a strange madness. Fengjiu frowned. The temperature of her blood seemed to be rising. It was a strange feeling, but other than that, there was nothing wrong with her body. She didn't know what the medicine was for, but why was the smell of blood in her throat so choking? What kind of blood was that? He reached out to grab her chin and said fiercely, "Fengjiu, you've destroyed everything I had. If I were to kill you just like that, wouldn't that be letting you off too easily? Don't worry, I'll make you wish you were dead, ha 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 ha." He waved his hand and strode out. At the same time, he raised his hand and set up a barrier at the entrance of the cave. With her acupoints sealed and her inability to use her spiritual energy, she was no different from a mortal. In her current state, a single barrier was enough to trap her. Fengjiu watched him leave and then looked around the cave. Chapter 2205. All the major acupoints on her body had been sealed and all the veins in her body seemed to be twisted together, making it difficult for her to exert any strength. Although all the acupoints in her body were sealed, she should be able to use her profound energy aura to break them open. However, her profound energy aura alone was unable to break them open. The profound energy aura in her body surged and rushed towards her acupoints. Sweat seeped out of her forehead due to the pain from the twisting veins and veins. The blood in her body, which was originally boiling hot after taking the medicine, started to boil. She clenched her teeth and surged all her profound energy aura. She felt the profound energy in her body rushing towards the sealed acupoints like a broken dam, breaking them open in one fell swoop. Phew! As the profound energy aura broke open her acupoints, she lightly exhaled and quickly adjusted the profound energy aura in her body. After feeling that all the acupoints in her body had been broken open, she then retracted her profound energy aura and placed her fingers on her wrist to check her pulse. With this check, her brows couldn't help but knit together. What exactly was this? How could it be like this? She retracted her hand and stood up. She didn't see the honorable poison master at the entrance of the cave, so she thought for a while in the cave. Her hand reached towards her thigh and felt that the dagger tied there was still there. She then returned to her original position and sat down. She could have escaped at this time, but she didn't want to. She wanted to take the Honorable Poison Master's life and end it all. The current her was someone he couldn't guard against. As long as she found the right opportunity to strike, she believed that the Honorable Poison Master would definitely die in her hands. If such a person were to escape, he would probably become a great enemy of the Heavenly Pill building in the future. And right now, it was the best time to get rid of him. After about an hour, the Honorable Poison Master's figure appeared at the entrance of the cave. He glanced at Fengjiu, who was leaning against the wall, and sneered. He waved his hand to remove the enchantment and walked in. He sat down in a corner and took out a net bag and threw it to the side. Something was moving inside the bag, and there were all kinds of subtle noises. Hearing the noises and looking at the bag, Fengjiu guessed that there were some poisonous things in the bag. They should be scorpions, venomous snakes, spiders, and the like. Sure enough, the Honorable Poison Master opened the bag and took out a poisonous snake. He pinched the snake's head with one hand and brought the snake close to his mouth to bite it. The poisonous snake's blood was sucked into his mouth. The blood in his mouth looked a bit ghastly. A venomous snake was sucked dry by him and tossed to the side like a dried snake. He reached into the bag again, and this time, he pulled out a rank 1 venomous spider. The venomous spider was about the size of a fist, and its 8 legs were covered in spikes. However, the Venerable Poison Master tore off its 8 legs and tossed them aside. He then placed them into his mouth and bit them. As she listened to the crunching sounds coming from the cave, she couldn't help but be startled. Could it be that this Venerable Poison Master feeds on poisons? Ordinary people would definitely die if they came in contact with these poisons, but he was able to mix them up and eat them raw without any problems. This could only mean that the poison in his body was even more poisonous than these poisons. Seeing that he had eaten a few things in a row, the bag was still moving. It was unknown what else was inside, but the Honorable Poison Master directly reached his hand into it and stopped moving. After a long while, he stretched out his hand and turned his palm upwards. The qi in his body began to circulate. Seeing him cultivate with his eyes closed, Fengjiu's eyes slightly moved. Chapter 2206. She abruptly pulled out her dagger and swiftly pounced forward. The dagger in her hand was suffused with a cold glint as she instantly pierced towards him. The Honorable Poison Master was just about to regulate his qi and stabilize his breathing when he suddenly sensed a murderous intent. His heart sank and he abruptly opened his eyes to take a look. When he saw Fengjiu holding a dagger in her hand, shock surfaced in his eyes. How is this possible? He instinctively wanted to dodge, but the other party had even taken into account his dodging action. The dagger stabbed fiercely into his heart. He only heard the sound of the sharp blade piercing his body, and he couldn't help but let out a muffled groan. Amen. A trace of blood seeped out from the corner of his mouth. Not only was his vital point pierced, even his internal breathing had been disrupted and was currently running amok in his body. You. He clutched the wound on his chest, which was gushing out blood, as he looked at Fengjiu in disbelief. How could I possibly unseal all the major acupoints on my body? Or, how could I possibly have profound energy in my body? Fengjiu sneered as she stared at him. The dagger in her hand twirled in her hand as she moved forward. Because I myself am of the profound spiritual body. My spiritual energy has been sealed, but I can still use my profound energy. Otherwise, how could I possibly kill you? The moment her voice fell, the dagger in her hand had already struck forward once again. This time round, the Honorable Poison Master was no longer caught unprepared. However, even though he was vigilant, the old injuries in his body had not yet healed, and there were new injuries in his heart. For a moment, his movements became slow, and his attack power was not as strong as he wished. The two of them exchanged more than 10 moves in the cave, and in the end, Feng 9 ended his life with a slash to his throat. You will not have a good ending. That honorable poison master collapsed, and with his last breath, he still said this sentence. Until he breathed his last, his face still carried a strange smile, as if he was laughing at something. Seeing him collapse, Fengjiu heaved a sigh of relief as she walked forward and squatted down. She stretched out her hand, and after ascertaining that he was indeed dead, she then sat down on the ground. Looking at his strange smile, she felt even more uneasy in her heart. Just what kind of pill did he give her? What kind of symptoms would there be when the medicinal pill took effect? When she checked her meridians, she found that there were more than 10 different poisons in her body, and the one that worried her the most was the beast blood boiling in her blood. That was definitely not an ordinary beast's blood. Right now, the symptoms had not shown up yet because the poison in his body was restraining each other. This made it even more troublesome. She sat on the ground and panted lightly. After adjusting her mood, she put away all the things on his body. Then, she went to check the empty bottles one by one. Finally, she picked up the bottle that still contained the beast blood. She brought the bottle close to her nose and took a sniff. The fishy smell was extremely strong. Moreover, there was an extremely powerful aura in the fishy smell. Her heart skipped a beat when she smelled the fishy smell and felt the aura. What would happen when it flared up? She kept everything properly and took out the corpse-dissolving water to melt the honorable poison master's body. Only then did she walk out of the cave. If her brother had not chopped off the honorable poison master's right hand and destroyed his life gate of poison, causing him to lose all of his poison techniques, she was afraid that she would not have been able to escape from his hands, much less kill him. You're tuning in to the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.